Good day, grade sevens. Today, as you'll see, we'll be looking at the topic of continents, and we'll be looking at what they are. We'll be looking at the different types of subcontinents, the highest points, the lowest points, and we'll also be looking at the certain populations of the different continents. So over here, you will see it says here, what are continents? And here we see the 7 different continents of the world. Okay, we have North America and we have South America. We have Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia and Antarctica. Okay, so those are the 7 different continents around the world. What are continents? So continents, as you see in the picture here, they are referred to masses of land that we live on. And here you will see each continent represents a mass of land, okay, an amount of land around the world. Now, as you will notice in the picture as well, the different continents on the world map, we will see that not all the continents are separated. Here we see that South America and North America are somehow linked, okay? We have Europe and Asia very much linked together, okay? And here we see that Australia, okay? And we also see that Antarctica is split up. They're the only 2 continents that appear on their own. As it states here, Australia and Antarctica are separated. And here we see that Africa and Asia also have a connection. Now, you will notice here it says that Africa and Asia are connected by Isthmus of Suez, okay? And Isthmus of Panama connects North and South America. And then Europe and Asia are connected, okay? And before they were connected, they were also known as Eurasia, okay? Europe and Asia, they were also known as Eurasia, but we'll discuss a few points about that a bit later. In fact, we'll discuss it now. Why did Europe and Asia separate? Because if you look back in the previous slide, you'll see that they are very much connected. But why did they separate? Europe and Asia, they separated because of physical, historical, and cultural diversities. Diversities means differences between the people of these continents. And as today you will see, it actually makes sense. The people of Europe and Asia are very much different in cultures, okay? And other historical and physical differences. Even between South and North America. Today, many people recognize the differences. So yes, America is one continent, but they are actually divided up into 2 continents, okay? North and South America. Australia is known as Oceania or Australasia, okay? So those are another 2 different names for the continent of Australia. And remember, Australia, okay, and Antarctica are the only 2 continents that are separated. Now, if we have to look at the population of the 2 regions, or of the different continents, we will see the numbers here. And this is a good way for you to practice your maths with percentages and numbers. So social studies doesn't just have facts, it also sometimes has numbers that you can work with mathematically. And here we can read this number, Asia, okay, they have the highest percentage of population, 60.3%, okay? And their population is 4,307,107,875. So practice reading these numbers. It's good for maths. Okay, remember your units, your tens, your hundreds, and then your thousands, your 10,000s, 100,000s. And then after 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, and billions. Okay, so these are the different populations of the continents in order from highest to the lowest, okay? So it's going in descending order. Okay, so there we have the numbers. And the total population of the world, okay, is 7,141,174,477. And that makes up the 100%. Right, so that's the population. Now, continents, this is an interesting fact. Continents are also divided into subcontinents, okay? Continents are also divided up into subcontinents. Now, subcontinent is a part of a continent. For example, Many consider the Arabian Peninsula and India as two subcontinents. Okay, so many, if you look over here, we see the Indian subcontinent. Yes, India is part of Asia, but a lot of people consider, okay, the Arabian Peninsula and India as two subcontinents. Greenland in North America too is considered by many as a subcontinent. And then the concept of continents was first presented by the Greeks. Okay, they were the first people to come up with this idea of continents. They were Greek. They were of Greek origin. Let's move on. So now over here you see, which I presented to you in the beginning of the lesson, that we will be looking at some of the high and low points of the different continents. Now the highest points, they usually represent the mountains. Okay, and there's more information in your textbook that I have left out of the PowerPoints because I've basically just tried to summarize everything. So it will be good for you to go back and read about this. It's very good to know this. You need to know it for today's life and the real world situation. It's good knowledge to have. So there we see in Asia, I'm going to go through a few of them. We have Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the highest point on the continent of Asia. And the location means where do we find Mount Everest in Asia? It will be in the country of China. And the lowest point in Asia is the Dead Sea. Now remember, the lowest points will represent the seas and the oceans. Okay, and Asia's lowest point we'll find in Jordan. That's where the location is. The Dead Sea is found in Jordan. So you can go through this. It is in your textbook as well. Have a look at some of this important information. It's good to know this stuff. Right, the next point, Africa, Europe, and Asia was discovered long before America. And that's why if you go back into history and you look at the first trade routes that were made and the first boats that were built, or the first ships that were built, they were all built by Asians and by Arabs, okay? Arabs and Asians played a huge role in trade around the world and developing trade. And today, even in today's world, you look at some Asian and Arab countries, they are very advanced when it comes to trade. They know how to deal with the Europeans, okay? So, and they made a lot of inventions and discoveries as well, okay? So Africa, Europe, and Asia was discovered long before America. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, and Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer, and he was the one that discovered America in the year 1492. You need to know that, okay? Christopher Columbus. Asia has 60% of the world's population, so they're the biggest amount. We discussed those numbers a bit earlier. Then Africa is next with 14% of the world's population. Then Europe in third position with 11% of the world's population. North America in fourth position with 8% of the world's population. South America next with 6% of the world's population. And then Australia with 0.5% of the world's population. So there's very little people in Australia. Okay, that's why it's quite easy for a lot of people to migrate to places like Australia because they have space. Even Canada. Okay, but Canada is obviously not a continent on its own. And then Antarctica has the least population of 0.00002%. Okay, so that's some of the statistics. Okay, now we come to your exercise, which I will run through with you and explain a bit as well. So it says here, and your answers to this, so you have to have your book open, and we're going to look at some of the statistics now. So it says label the pi key with the correct name of the continents based on their size. Now, that was just the numbers that we have gone through on the previous slide. So we need to check which color represents which continent, and we need to say which continent it is. So for example, if we look at the first color, that one will represent 60%. Now, which continent has 60% of the world's population? It is Asia. So that will be Asia there for the first block. Now, I'll leave the rest to you to complete. And if we go over to the other half of the page, it says answer the following questions. What two continents have been separate since their early beginnings? What continent is also known as the continent of Oceania? What is the lowest point in Asia? What is the highest point in Asia? And who was the first to discover the land of America and when? Now remember, when you study for your exams or for any test that will be coming up for the end of the year, don't just study the lesson exercise pages. Look for the other information as well. I could test from those areas as well. Thank you, grade 7s. That brings us to the end of this lesson.